Now let's go on to emotions. How does sexual activity impact our emotions? I say heart for emotions, but really, where's the center of our emotions? It's in the limbic system, the feeling part of our brain. So again, in adolescence, this is all amped up. Everything's bigger here, and the brain is using the fuel of those big emotions to promote growth, hopefully, of our cortex, our prefrontal cortex, our thinking brain. Or the amped up emotions are causing us to regress into our survival brain. So you choose. Be aware of your strategies for big feelings. You know, do you need to go for a run? Do you need to do some push-ups? Do you need to go listen to some music? Do you need to write out your feelings? Do you need to just go talk it out with someone? Do you need a nap? Do you need a snack, right? Be aware of how you process your emotions and have strategies in place. So what's going on in the brain with sexual activity? So this guy here, the limbic system, during sexual activity is flooded with high levels of different neurotransmitters and hormones that are going on. So one of them is oxytocin. So remember when I was talking about the pet? So the pet, you actually have small amounts of oxytocin going on there when you're bonding with your pet, or you're playing, you know, even on the football team, right? You're bonding together. It's low on the spectrum now. But here's the deal. There's two activities in life that the brain is flooded with that bonding hormone, that neurotransmitter, that oxytocin. And those are nursing, when a mother is nursing an infant, and sexual activity. So it changes the brain to see that person in more favorable light. And if you think about like a situation with an infant, being a new mother is challenging, right? You know, there's dirty diapers, there's nighttime feedings, and so the brain needs to see that infant in the most favorable light, the cutest thing in the world, right? So that you continue to care for and snuggle and keep safe and want to provide and nurture and protect. So that's the impact of oxytocin. If we think about how strongly the brain is flooded with those neurotransmitters and the hormones there, if a mom is willing to do all that for an infant, why is the brain flooded with that neurotransmitter during sexual activity? Well, if you think about it, our bodies are designed for success. If our bodies are engaging in sexual activity, what might happen? A baby could be made, right? So our brain isn't thinking, well, I'm not going to flood with oxytocin because they're not actually trying to have a baby right now. No, your brain is just going to be flooded. The design of our body is to bond to that other person because why? A two-person team creates more safety for this possible third edition. Biologically, looking at it, it just makes sense. Biologically, our brain isn't thinking, well, that's not really their intent, so I'm not going to add the bonding. The brain's just like, no, sexual activity is there, it means bonding is going to occur. We also have dopamine flooding the brain. So dopamine is that feel-good motivator. Often it's associated with pleasure. It's a neurotransmitter that is often addressed when we're talking about addiction. It's released in its highest amount, concentration, naturally through sexual activity. Now there's unnatural ways or synthetic ways to amp up that dopamine, whether it's drugs, gambling, it can be even shopping, can be alcohol. So our bodies have like a natural rhythm of dopamine in everything we do. So say you study for a test and you pass the test, you're like, oh, yes, that's like a bit of dopamine there. It motivates you to study next time, hopefully. Or say you're practicing shots for a basketball game or football game or for soccer, and you are getting your shots. So the effort you've put in is rewarded with dopamine. What we want to guard against is big hits of dopamine with next to no effort. It's like low-hanging fruit on a tree, and if we never have to stretch or grow or climb that tree, the muscle of relationships, essentially, if you don't use it, you lose it. So let's think about sexual activity and dopamine, and let's talk about pornography, right? No relationship needed. No getting to know a person. No reading social cues. No reading body language. But yet, your body immediately is getting this huge rush of dopamine. Because for thousands of years in human history, or for all of human history, humans have had to work for relationships that are close enough to be sexually active, right? And you have to build the relationship. Whereas if you just jump right into getting that massive dopamine hit, that limbic system's flooded. So it's hacking a biological reaction in our body that's meant to bond powerfully, right? So our brain's thinking, okay, so this might produce offspring, so therefore I must bond to protect possible future offspring, right? That's built into us. It doesn't recognize the fact that this is a screen. Novelty after novelty after novelty is not having the relationship built into it. It reshapes our brain, and without building our human potential here, where we have communication and we have compassion and we have the ability to read faces and the ability to recognize social cues. Our neurotransmitters and the hormones are actually flooding the brain in a way that changes how we perceive what is going on, changes how we see the other person, changes how we remember things. So, for example, norepinephrine, that is a neurotransmitter that floods the brain during sexual activity as well, and it's like a memory-searing neurotransmitter. So it's like heightened awareness and heightened memory. So that's, for example, if something happens and then years down the road, you know, you smell a certain smell or you hear a certain sound, sometimes your brain can just be triggered right back to that initial memory. I've been here before. Where there was a similar smell or there was a similar sound that happened. Your brain sears the memory of sexual activity into your brain. We also have serotonin, which is just that like step out into the forest, big breath of fresh air, feel good, the world as well. That floods the brain. And then there's also prolactin. Prolactin is another bonding neurotransmitter right up there with vasopressin as well. Point is, sexual activity floods the brain with neurotransmitters and hormones so that you are remembering. It changes your feelings, it changes your perception. So we want to be aware of the impact on our brain and on our emotions and see what is the risk and what is the reward.